Hello, welcome to Overcome a Mental Health Podcast. I'm your host, Travis White. This is a safe place for you to speak about your mental health. I'm very excited for today's guest. We are speaking with Jason Young. Jason is a Circadian health coach. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Travis. I appreciate being on.
Yeah, my pleasure. And without further ado, I'm just going to turn the time right over to Jason, have him take us on his journey.
Okay, cool. Well, I started off in the fitness industry. So I opened my fitness business back in 2007, just as basically a fitness boot camp type program. And that was basically how I ran it for several years. At the time, I did not teach people about nutrition from myself. I used other people's because I still had some issues with my body and whatnot. So I wasn't comfortable telling people what to do in that realm. But eventually I turned it around. I found the paleo diet in the beginning of 2010. And towards the end of 2010, that's when I started teaching people more and more about nutrition and whatnot. And eventually we opened up to 3 locations, and eventually we opened up a youth strength and fitness facility as well. Yeah. And basically I led people with the idea that in order to be healthy, if you're doing a fitness program and you're doing your diet correctly, then you're healthy. But as I have learned since then, that is simply not the case. And there's a lot of little things that can possibly deter you from your health. I'm sure any of your listeners who have tried the diet route, tried the diet and exercise route, and they've fallen off or something else hit them that they weren't expecting and whatnot. So I've followed that. I did that I had the gym up until 2020, but starting around, I would say 2015, 2016, somewhere around there, I started feeling a bit off. And so I later learned that I had hormone issues. And so when you're in your late 30s and you're supposed to be the healthy one and supposed to be teaching people how to be healthy and whatnot, and you're getting sick, then that to me was it was unacceptable. So I had to start moving into other routes, looking at other people, because the only thing I knew was fitness and nutrition. And I was living the lifestyle of a typical fitness entrepreneur, basically waking up at 4:30 a.m. to go teach early 5:15 a.m. classes and not coming home until 9 p.m. So that was kind of like the stuff that really just destroyed me. And so eventually I found Dr. Jack Cruz again for the second time. First time I found him was in 2013, but I wasn't really ready for his message because I still had the fitness programs and the nutrition programs and supplements to sell people. So I just wasn't ready for his message at that time. But late 2018, I was fully ready. I was having major hormone issues. And once I adapted his principles around circadian rhythm, mitochondria, all that stuff, that's when things turned around. And I actually started off doing them wrong. But it didn't matter because I still felt a lot better than what I was feeling. And ever since, I've been basically learning and implementing and teaching, and I haven't stopped. And like I said, in 2020, I shut the gym down completely. I still coach people out of my home, but basically the main focus now is circadian rhythm coaching, helping people with their hormones, helping people with their mitochondria and whatnot. So that's basically the gist of my story.
Perfect. And out of curiosity, what you started on the kind of just go back to the beginning of like when you started the fitness and nutrition side of things? What got you started on that route?
How I started on that um,
Yeah.
was, I mean, that was pretty much, it's really fitness and working out and dieting pretty much has been my entire life. So I really started working out um, consistently, I would say 1990. So I think I was in the 7th grade, and it was because of Sylvester Stallone and seeing all the Rocky movies and the Rocky montages and the Rambo physique. And I was also big into the WWE wrestling and all those guys. And all my favorites were jacked and huge Hogan, Warrior, Macho Man, all those guys. But Sylvester Stallone was the one that really pushed me into the training and doing all that stuff. But yeah, that drove me in. But I was also following like bodybuilding diets, so I was doing like ultra low fat, low cholesterol, very very high protein, very very low cholesterol, and lots and lots of carbs. So I had so my hormone issue was my second time I got sick. The first time I got sick, I got depression, I got anxiety, thoughts of suicide. This was basically the mid 2000s, because I was following these bodybuilding diets, and eventually I bulked up to my average weight I would say was 222 pounds, and I was 100. I'm usually 175, 180 now. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, so yeah, and eventually I got injured doing deadlifts, and I had to stop working out eventually. I didn't stop working out for 3 years. I just basically just pushed through the pain with a herniated disc, which was stupid. But I mean, I was in my 20s, so you've got a big ego and all that stuff. You think you know everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually I stopped, and when I stopped, I lost 70 pounds in. I lost 50 pounds in the first 3 months and 70 pounds in 6 months, and it took me 9 months to fully rehab my back. And that's when I was in my depression and state, I knew I needed to get out of that. And so I was looking at things to do because I had no drive, I had no purpose, but fitness was the only thing that really made me happy. So that's when I started looking into opening my own business, and eventually I did. And then the depression went away and anxiety went away, and I had a purpose to help and serve people. But as I found out, I was actually hurting people more than I was helping them. But yeah, that's another story. But that's how I got into fitness,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. I mean, it is, even though in the end you said that you were hurting people instead of helping people, but at the same time, you trying to, like, you getting out of your depression and anxiety by feeling like you're helping people, I still think that's a very important thing to note here. But now I want to kind of jump to the circadian health side of things. For those who are listening that may not know what that is, can you explain it and tell us why it's so important?
Yeah, we are governed by a 24-hour cycle. So everybody knows that the sun rises at a certain time and it sets at a certain time. And our body is supposed to be in sync with that rhythm as well. But we have really, really moved away from it, and we've become modernized humans, as I like to call them. And that's why why we see all these disease epidemics everywhere: obesity, diabetes, autoimmunity, just a complete lack of energy. I mean, I think there's been 6 or 7 Dunkin' Donuts that have been gone up in like a 5 mile radius of where I live in the last 6 months. So we're coffee driven, caffeine driven, and yeah. So basically, your circadian rhythm. Certain things are supposed to happen inside of you at certain times. So we're supposed to wake up at certain times. Certain hormones are supposed to be turned on at certain times, turned off at others. Other hormones turned on and off. When our blood pressure is supposed to be highest, when it's supposed to be lowest, is governed by our circadian rhythm. Obviously, women have their monthly cycle, so that's governed by a circadian rhythm as well. So basically, everything that's going on inside of us is happening based on time of day or the clocks inside of us. And if we get too unsynced, then we're going to be presented with symptoms of problems, symptoms of diseases. And if we let that manifest, it's going to turn into eventually the full-blown disease. But that's why I'm trying to spread the message as much as I can and help people become aware of what's going on and why it's going on, and then stop the progress and then eventually reverse the progress and become optimal once again, or the strongest version of themselves again.
That's fair. And thank you for that. Because I know, like, when I first saw your message to me to come on the podcast, I was like, "What is that?" So I did a little bit of digging, and it was because it was completely new to me. Like, I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like, this type of thing existed. But how would you say that, like, a natural circadian rhythm has helped improve your mental and physical health?
Well, like I said before I got into this, I had hormone issues and really poor sleep, poor energy. I was almost usually had to take a nap in the middle of the afternoon, which was obviously weird for me. But yeah, so when I was doing, when I first got into it, I mean, my mindset was so ingrained in the fitness and nutrition industry, and that's always first. And so I had to watch Dr. Jack Cruse's Nourish Vermont talk 2017. I probably watched it 9 times before I actually did anything, because I consider that the greatest health talk ever, if any of your listeners want to watch it. But it was such a big kick in the balls. But it really, once I started doing everything, it started moving me forward. So when probably the most important thing in regards to circadian rhythm that I tell all my clients, and basically I scream from the rooftops, is see the sunrise. Sunrise. So when the sun rises, you want to see it with naked eyes. So no sunglasses, no contacts. If you do wear glasses, you pull them down the bridge of the nose or you take them completely off. So you want that sun going into the eye, because our master circadian clock is inside of it's right behind our retina. And once it gets that light from the sun, it's basically going to transmit that light through the brain to the anterior pituitary gland. And that's going to tell the body, hey, turn on these hormones. So it's going to turn on all the sex steroid hormones, testosterone, estrogen, pregnenolone, progesterone. So all those things get basically turned on. Cortisol, it's going to naturally rise. So cortisol is supposed to help wake you up in the morning. And that was the big thing that I had. I had an upside down cortisol, melatonin. So they're supposed to be like opposites of each other. So when one's high, the other is low, and vice versa. But my cortisol was all over the place. My melatonin was low, so I couldn't actually sleep properly. Sleep is, most people think it's weird, but getting proper morning sun will actually help you sleep better, because our days are supposed to be bright and our nights are supposed to be dark, but we have made basically our days dark by either hiding from the sun or blocking it with sunglasses and whatnot. And then we've made our nights dark with basically artificial lights and the technology on our phones, our iPads, our TVs, and whatnot. So we've made it completely ass backwards, and basically our circadian rhythm is just completely upside down, so to speak.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I usually work from home, so it's like I'm very guilty of not getting out in the sun. But I could tell you that, like, when I actually take 10 minutes to just go and get that sunlight and just feel it, like, it does a lot for me. I can feel like a boost in energy.
Yeah, yeah, you will get that energy, because I mean, even so the red light from the sun, there's 42% of all sunlight that comes to Earth is in the infrared spectrum. And then it depends on the season and where you are, but 52 to 55% of all sun is in the red spectrum. So that red spectrum inside of our body, it can basically spin our ATPase. Most people know ATP is like the energy currency of the body. And when that spins, you're basically going to feel more energy. You're going to feel more alive and whatnot. So
you said that you kind of mentioned this, but I'm just curious. You pretty much said that um, waking up and seeing the sunlight and being out in the sun basically does it build up the melatonin in your body to help you sleep? Is that what you're pretty much implying?
Well, sunrise is basically going to, it's the setter of the circadian rhythm. So it's basically like the warm up for the other suns that come.
Mm-hmm.
So most people, if they go to the gym, they're not going to put on their max weight and then just start doing their max weight. Usually there's a warm up progression. So sunrise is basically like the warm up for everything else to come. So like I said, it's basically turning on the proper hormone factories and whatnot. And then once the sun gets over 10 degrees inclination, that's when UVA light comes out. And that's basically when we are starting to make melatonin. Well, actually serotonin is made first, and then from serotonin, melatonin gets made. But then there's all other things that are made in UV light. So we make dopamine, nitric oxide. That's when melanin, our skin protection, skin coloring gets made. But it's basically just melanin's like a energy source. I always say melanin is a human's superpower. But also beta endorphins are made in UV light. So that's basically like our natural feel good opioid. So it's like the sun is telling us we're supposed to be addicted to her and not addicted to nicotine or Netflix or cookies or whatever, gambling or all that stuff that we get addicted to.
You're making all these light bulbs go off in my head, but that explains a lot of why a lot of us have issues like even falling asleep because we're not getting the nutrients from the sun pretty much that we need to even, I guess, live a energized life.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically that, like I said, we make our nights bright, and that type of light, it's basically most of the lighting, especially the ones coming from your technology, like the overhead lights that you will see in like work offices and grocery stores, that is associated with the color temperature of about 5,500 to 6,500 Kelvin. So that's approximately between 12 and 1 p.m. So if you're getting that at 8 p.m., 10 p.m., 11 p.m., it's basically giving your master clock the signal that it is 12 to 1 p.m. And when you're trying to wind down, it's basically, and you're trying to wind down and your brain is sensing that from the light, it's 12 or 1 p.m. 12 or 1 p.m. is time for productivity. It's time for energy. It's time to do things and not go to sleep for 8 hours. So that's why when people do that, they can't really get into, they can sleep, but it's not really the sleep that we need. It's not the deep restorative sleep. So we can't get into stage 3 or stage 4 sleep. So REM sleep or deep sleep, or we can't stay in it as long. And so people wake up, they need the coffee, they need the caffeine, they need the Red Bull, they need simple carbohydrates, because simple carbohydrates basically give you the feeling that your ATP it recycles ATP a little faster. So that's why you get a jolt from it. But the longer you do it, it's basically like a crutch. It's basically giving you a false sense of energy, but then it's like a steady decline until all of a sudden it's like, bam, you get smacked in the face or punched in the face and something big is facing you, and now you're faced with a decision. So once people really hit that spot, that's usually when they go into centralized medicine. And basically that's just like a hamster wheel, and people can't get off of it. So they'll go to the doctor. The doctor will say, because usually the doctors, they're not trained to prevent or reverse disease. They're just trained to just write the prescription pad and give that to you. But once you get the prescription, then you're going to have side effects from the prescription. So you need more prescriptions, and it's just a revolving door. Once you keep going down that door, then you're going to get sicker. Eventually you'll see the oncologist, cancer doctor, or maybe you'll see a heart disease doctor or diabetes doctor or whatnot, or maybe you'll need surgery. And yeah, so it's just a continuing path, but at any time you can jump off the wheel. so to speak.
Yeah, very well said. I like how you basically mentioned that doctors are taught to basically put a band-aid on stuff instead of take care of it. They don't always treat for what you have. And I've been on medication before that I had the worst side effects and they wanted me to do other things. I was like, no, I'm not doing this because I know it's a side effect from this medication, whether you're admitting that or not. I'm going to taper off of this and find another way.
Yep. Good. Awesome.
So, when you first started with the circadian rhythm, how long did it take for you to like with your body and stuff, like get, I guess, start feeling better, start feeling what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of just I
Recalibration.
get, yeah, the recap. That's a good way to put it. I kind of think of what I want to say, but that's where I was getting to.
Yeah. It didn't take too long. And like I said, I started off doing it wrong because I didn't actually see the sun rise because I waited until the sun got into my backyard, and by that time UVA had already showed up because back when I started, my dopamine was lower, so I cared a little bit more about what people thought. I didn't want to be out in the front and have people look at me and like, what's this guy doing staring at the sun with his clothes off and whatnot. But then once I figured out I was doing it wrong, then I really turned it around. So I would say, I mean, it was probably immediate, like 2 weeks, doing it wrong, and then probably 4 weeks after that, I mean, things really, really clicked, and I was like, oh, there's something definitely to this. I've got to stick with this and whatnot. So, and I'm currently on a streak of seeing the sunrise in early UVA light. I think it's up to 1,410 days or something in a row now. And the only reason I missed it was because we had a flight to Boston, and I was still in my previous mindset, always get the flight early, get there, but I forgot. Got to see the sunrise, but that was the last time I missed it.
Still really cool. It's a lot. Like, and it's like it seems like such a and I talk about this a lot on the show. Just changing your habit to better yourself. But you did mention one thing I want to touch base on because I always find it important is you mentioned dopamine. How would you say dopamine is connected to uh, our emotional health and motivation?
Uh, it's a lot. So I did a webinar on dopamine, and the subtitle was "For the Survival of Our Species," and because it is that important. Because if it continues to just lower and lower and lower, then basically we're not going to be the person who's doing that. You're not going to be able to think for yourself. You're going to care more about what other people around you think. And so when you're presented with something like this, it's going to be like, this is crap. I'm not going to do it. If it goes up against somebody's belief systems, they're not going to question it. They're not going to even think about doing something like this. But the thing is, with dopamine, the only thing that can truly regulate it is the sunlight. Either then with other things, so like every time you eat, you get a dopamine hit. Every time you get a click on your social media, you get a dopamine hit. The highest of high and the lowest of low is what I've heard is the cocaine. But yeah, so I mean, you can. I mean, it drives the person to want to be better, but sometimes it can be at the detriment of other things in your life. Because I know when I had my fitness business and I didn't really do all this sun stuff. I mean, I was completely driven. It was all work, 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 work. Yeah, and I missed a lot of things because of that. Because checking things off my to-do list was basically giving me a rise for my dopamine, and basically getting a new client was like a dopamine hit, and it just kept going and going, and I missed certain things So I missed a lot of like my daughter growing up. Um, so she's 10 now. She'll be 11 in a couple weeks. But I missed a lot of things. So we actually hired a nanny to come in 3 days a week, and the other 2 days my mom was babysitting her. So I didn't really get that. But when my son was born in 2019, it was basically me with him the whole day for the first 2 years of his life. So and that's something very special that I will take with me for the rest of my life. Um, but sometimes if people are doing that, it can hurt the marriage, it can hurt the relationship with the kids and all that stuff. So you've really got to be careful. You've got to toe the line. So dopamine can move you in the right direction, or it can move you in the wrong direction. But I always say dopamine has to be in the right way, and so it has to include the sun. So it's like when I always talk about diet now, I always talk about it doesn't matter what type of diet you're doing, if it doesn't include the sun and DHA, it's not a good diet, and eventually it will fail you and put you somewhere in the modernized human category, basically.
Yeah, I agree. I'm right there with you. Last year, I went through some health issues, and I was kind of in a really bad rut with depression and anxiety. And I went and saw a holistic doctor. And one of the first things they said was, not only do you need to change your diet, but you need to be out in the sun more. You need
Good, good,
to,
good doctor.
and you'll feel it. So,
Yeah.
and I'm not always the best because I work from home and I kind of lock myself in my room sometimes in my office. But I've made it more of a thing to like, okay, well, if I have 10 minutes during the day to be outside with the kids or like at certain times, I'm going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can feel a huge difference. So
Yeah.
I love that
Yeah.
you brought that up, that it's how important the sunlight is to us.
Are you in the mountains in Utah?
No, I'm close to them, but I'm not in them.
Okay. Yeah, because I was just going to say the higher you go up the mountain, you actually gain more, or you absorb more UV light in.
Okay.
So that's one reason why the Kenyans dominate like marathons and whatnot. So most people don't know that Kenya is like the main center of it is a mile up in the air, and at the equator you have the strongest sun anywhere. So that's why basically they come in over here and dominate everything.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So their mitochondria is just a little bit stronger and a little bit different.
Yeah. So on the days that your motivation like maybe dips a little bit, how do you stay on track on those occasions?
Well, I am very diligent about planning my day, because I always say motivation is going to wane. And my business coach always says, if you don't plan your day for the next day, you are basically telling yourself that you want a sucky day, because then you're going to be pulled into different directions. You're going to basically do what is the easiest thing to do, not what is necessarily needed for the business to move forward. So and basically, I created a course around this, basically my healthier planning course, which also goes over how to set your goals, how to figure out your purpose and whatnot. So that's one way that I stay super focused pretty much. And I still do a lot of the exercise, the diet. I still do it just in more of a circadian type way, because that it is important to move your body. I heard a quote the other day that said, I forget who it was, but it was like one of those Greek philosophers, but he's basically said the eye is to vision what the body is to the soul. So the body needs to be moved. It needs to feel the sun. It needs to be grounded to nature and whatnot. Otherwise, your soul basically gets sucked out of you.
I love that. It's good. And now that you've said it though, like I think I've seen it before, but I would have no idea who it was by, but it sounds vaguely familiar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
So,
think it was Aristotle or somebody like that.
so when it comes to circadian rhythm, what do you feel are the three most important daily habits?
Well, before I give you that list, I'll preface it like this. It it does depend on the person's context. So, like if somebody is living in Africa and Kenya, it's going to be way different than somebody living in Utah or somebody in Ohio or somebody in New York City. But basically, first thing would be seeing the sunrise and trying to see that naked eyes, and also trying to get out for a few 5, 10, 15 minutes for when UVA comes out. So there's apps that can help you out with when those actual times are. Second, I would say with the artificial light, because again, our nights need to be dark in order to help the melatonin come out properly to help us into that deeper sleep stages. So I would say changing your lights or blue blocking glasses at night would be huge. And then number three, I would say is we haven't discussed it at all, but I would say grounding or earthing, because every disease is basically we're losing too many electrons. So the earth is full of free electrons. Basically, like there's like, I forget like the number, but it's an insane amount of lightning strikes. And that's how the earth basically gets its electrons. So there's like thousands and thousands around the globe. And that's basically charging up the earth. So the earth will always have more energy than you. And I forget the law or the principle, but it says anything that has less energy, anything that has more energy will give that energy to whatever has less energy. I'm sure you've been around people who are just full of energy, and once you're around them, you feel a little picked up as well. So that's basically the earth. So ground your feet. So our feet are loaded, like the heel cord is on our body. It's where we have the most like grounding ports. So yeah, ground your feet. You have a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's very interesting that you just brought up grounding today because my mother-in-law last night just gave my wife a grounding pad that she had to take away the house, to take around the house.
Okay, awesome.
So it's just really cool that you brought it up, like,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
because until last night I didn't really know what one was.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm grounded right now. So I'm in my office. I've got a grounding clip that just clips around my wrist, and then
Okay,
it's connected to a copper wire, which is connected to a copper rod right outside my office window.
that's really cool. I just feel like things work in like mysterious ways. That so happened last night, and I'm holding a conversation with you about it today.
Uh huh. Yep. Law of attraction.
Hmm. So, somebody that is in a dark place right now, what advice would you give them?
Well, those three things I just mentioned, but it's also going to be mindset. So that was the big thing that brought me out of my depression, anxiety. Probably the two books that really started me on my path was the Secret by Rhonda Byrne and The Magic of Thinking Big by Tony Robbins. And so I just went to the library, got the books on CD, and for 28 days I just listened, alternated between those two books because when I had depression there wasn't Audible or anything like that. Um, yeah, so I would say finding things that motivate you. When my daughter was like a baby, I would always have my computer there, and I would open it up, and would put on. I called him Uncle Les. It was basically Les Brown and his motivational talks and whatnot, and we would just listen to that. So yeah, just finding something to fill your mind with positivity, right? Because those those negative thoughts they just keep pulling at you and keep pulling at you, and you really can't get out of it. So they say that like 95% of our thoughts are the same each and every day. And we have like thousands and thousands of them, and 95% are the same, and you're just trying to get out. It's basically just going to pull you down. So yeah, finding something that can really motivate you, really change your mindset. Psycho-Cybernetics is also a great book for like the self-image and whatnot. So I highly recommend that book as well.
Awesome. I always love the mindset piece because I can't say like how important it is to actually work through that mindset change
Mm-hmm.
because it does take a lot of time and patience with yourself. And I personally always tell people to give yourself a little bit of grace when you're switching your mindset to get away from those negative thoughts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I went through a program. I think it's still out there, but it's Lucinda Bassett's Attacking Anxiety and Depression. So when I went through it, it was on cassette tape. So I think they've upgraded it, but I'm pretty sure it's still out there. So it really helped me.
And just out of curiosity, what did it look like for you on your lowest day that you remember?
Well, at the time, I worked in a collections job. So if anybody knows collections, it's very depressing in and of itself. So just basically
Yeah.
but yeah, so I would get done with a shift, calling people, yelling at people, people yelling at me. So that obviously didn't help. And then I'd basically just go home and I would basically watch some movie. It was either the Blockbuster or the Netflix, not the Netflix now, like the streaming. You had to pick the DVD and they would send it in the mail, and then you send those back, and that was basically my life. Yeah, and then just um, I was still doing the fitness and nutrition, but there was a point where like my workouts, I actually didn't want to do them anymore because they were just the same thing over and over again because I was so ingrained in like the bodybuilding culture. That was the only way I thought that you could work out. So, I mean, everything was the same. Weights weren't going up. Nothing was going up. Nothing was changing. And it was just basically the same old, same old. And you don't really know how you're going to get out of it. But I mean, once you start becoming aware that there's other things out there that can help you and move you forward, then because awareness is the first step in getting out of whatever you're in. So, yeah, but yeah, that was tough times, but we go through the things to become stronger. So
100%. And I
mhm.
totally agree. Awareness is the first step. I I don't think that I mean, I rarely hear stories where, like somebody's gone through like depression or anxiety, whatever it is, where, they're pushed by somebody else and they actually fully get out of that rut until they actually admit that they have a problem.
Mhm. Yep. Yep.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, I honestly just have a few more kind of like just general follow up questions for you. But this is one that I like to ask all my guests because I all the responses are a little bit different and I like to hear them. What do you believe is the biggest stigma when it comes to mental health?
I've probably two of them, but the one is like it's not really, it's just all in your head. I've heard that one a lot, but it's not. I mean, I mean, it is a faulty circadian mechanism. I mean, things aren't fully connected. The clocks are off and whatnot. But like, if the clocks are off, the hormones aren't going to be working properly. The neurotransmitters aren't going to be working properly, and all that stuff. So once everything gets back online, then yeah. But I mean, it's definitely not all in the head. It's definitely an issue with the physiology and the biology of the body.
Yeah, for sure. And if you would have told me a year ago that that the body was as connected to mental health as I know from what I know now, like I would have told you you're full of crap, and probably wouldn't believe it. But knowing what I know now, like it's your body's so connected together.
Yep. Yeah, and that's one of the problems with centralized medicine. I mean, if you have kidney problems, you go see a kidney specialist. If you have brain problems, you go see a brain specialist. But I mean, everything works together, so we can't really separate.
Yeah, they're so separated out that sometimes it feels like you can't get the help you need.
Exactly.
And then it's like they can't give you any advice on anything else except for their focused area.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's another story of itself. I could go into
Uh-huh.
probably a rabbit hole on that one. And let's see, the next thing I have was, where can people find you?
Well, the many places. I'm on the typical social networks. I am on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You can find me at sun.yun.jason. So Yun is just YUN. Twitter, I'm Yun Training. And probably I do have a free ebook. It's a 17-step guide, basically going over some of the stuff that I talked about tonight. So that's at improvementwarriorfitness.com/mitochondriac. So it's just mitochondria with a C at the end. So you can download that for free. But otherwise, social media is the easiest. You can DM me and message me and comment and all that stuff. But that's pretty much where I am.
Awesome. And I will leave all those links in the show notes too.
Cool. Thank you.
And the last thing, is there anything you would like to discuss that we did not cover today?
I can't really think of anything. Obviously, we didn't talk about the circadian fitness or nutrition too much, but I mean, there's a lot more to it. So, I mean, if you're open to a part 2, I'm happy to come back and talk about that.
No, for sure. Yeah, I feel like I would be very open to a part 2 and get more into the circadian nutrition and fitness. I'd love it.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being on the show. Thanks to all the listeners.
Yes. Thank you, Travis. Appreciate it.
And all the listeners, expect a part 2 with Jason. But best thing you can do right now is follow us, share our stuff, review our podcast, do whatever you can to spread the word. That's very important, and that's the best thing you can do, because it's a lot of word of mouth to get a podcast out there.
Yes, for sure.
Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.